Well, good afternoon on this warm, windy Saturday. Updating you on the weather situation here. We've got tornado watch that's been issued for west central, northwestern Minnesota, and eastern North Dakota, and that northeastern corner of South Dakota. That's where we've got the most sheer and where they've seen a little bit of sunshine, actually, so a little more energy out to the west. 50-mile-an-hour winds near Sioux Falls earlier, with temperatures soaring into the 70s. So Fargo right smack dab in the middle of that, and the western counties there of Minnesota. And this is all closer to the low, so that's why we're seeing that potential for at least this first round of some activity to be possibly tornadic, a few of those storms off to the west. So no warnings at all, whether severe thunderstorm or tornadic, but they have a severe thunderstorm watch out. That's for the next 6 hours or so, and we've got some thunderstorms, or showers, I should say. There's not even any lightning and thunder that's popping up in the southeast metro again right now too. So the atmosphere is pretty volatile. We're seeing humidity, of course. You've probably noticed that. Way more moisture in the atmosphere than we've seen in more than 6 months. Got to go back to early October. And that combined with some pretty warm temperatures and this low that's approaching, creating some of those conditions that we're seeing out there. Already had some thunderstorms, of course, this morning, and we're watching this low that's centered in eastern South Dakota. This is really the focal point for some afternoon severe weather, and eventually some stronger storms maybe again this evening. So the area the Storm Prediction Center is watching is the eastern part of South Dakota, southeastern North Dakota, and then the western, west central Minnesota for this afternoon development. This is where we've got some of the best shear. This is where they've seen the sun. Temperatures soaring into the 70s. In fact, Sioux Falls had a 50-mile-an-hour south wind that helped push their temperatures up. And looking at some of the parameters that we watch for severe weather, this is the significant tornado parameter that combines shear and instability, and it is starting to increase here in that area that we're watching, eastern South Dakota and then far western Minnesota. Similar thing with downdraft Cape, so kind of the reverse of thunderstorm potential energy. It's potential energy for downward moving air. So in other words, where could some of those downbursts or high wind gusts develop? And again, that is really right on top of that same area. So as you get closer to the low, where we got the cold front, warm front north of that, and this is going to become an occluded front where the cold air essentially catches up with the warm air, that is going to be the focal point for anything that would maybe become organized and rotate, because you have the most shear there, winds moving in all kinds of directions, you can imagine, as colder air from the west, warmer air from the south, and different layers aloft are all doing that. But deep moisture all the way from the south. You probably noticed the humidity today. Strong low-level jet streams. So we have got higher jet streams aloft, but also lower ones about 4,000 feet up. 80-mile-per-hour winds out of Iowa into Minnesota. That's what's pumping in the warm, humid air, despite not a whole lot of sunshine here in eastern Minnesota. And that is a plume of moisture. When we look through the column of the atmosphere, this is precipitable water, necessary to, of course, produce clouds and storms. The more water, the better when we're talking about thunderstorms. So the Storm Prediction Center does have that slight risk of severe weather right up to the Twin Cities and west today, and then up into western Minnesota. Tornado chances, it's more focused on west central Minnesota and then down into Iowa, and then more of a wind and hail threat with our storms that we developed today. The problem is the convective available energy, that storm energy, is going to be a very narrow swath ahead of the cold front today. So you want to see more widespread, deep energy, just give a bigger environment potentially for storms to develop in, rather than a narrow window. And when we look at the forecast tornado parameter, that kind of shifts to the east, northeast from South Dakota here as we head towards the evening hours. So it is going to be that western and central Minnesota area, probably most likely to see a couple of possible spin-ups, but again, best chances are going to be for wind and hail. So this is looking at a combined short-term model, several of them together, and you start to see that they all develop in different spots here over the afternoon and evening. So there is some uncertainty here in this forecast. Despite it being 2022, sometimes you just got to kind of wait and see. Basically, 3 different areas of thunderstorms at 7 p.m. This evening forecasts. So some models develop the storms earlier, further west, some later, further east. So that's what we're watching for. So it kind of looks like there's going to be 2 separate areas, but this is looking side by side at 2 different short-term models, and you do see that difference in development and timing, the location and the timing. So in terms of time and space continuum, we're watching the possibility of 2 different scenarios, but either way, closer to that low is going to be the best chance. On the cold side of the system, A significant blizzard too for the Black Hills in western North Dakota. Lots of snow, a lot of wind too, and we will see the temperature drop from this. We're not going to see snow here, though northwestern Minnesota will see some snow showers late tonight and tomorrow. So temperatures in the 60s and 70s will give way to 40s spreading in for tomorrow. This is a 24-hour temperature loop, and 30s only in northwestern Minnesota tomorrow. And it's going to stay pretty chilly here into the early part of the week. In fact, unusually cold for these last days of April to have a high of 43 on Monday. The normal high is 62, so about 20 degrees below normal. We're going to slowly crawl towards normal again, maybe by late in the week, closer to 60 degrees. But and the other notable thing is it will be mainly dry after today and tonight. So once again, yeah, we're watching this area to the west. We'll take a look at radar again quick, and you can see I put on the Aberdeen radar, so we're a little closer to some of the storms that are actually going. And you can see those storms are moving initially to the east there around Watertown, straight north, and then wrapping around the low, which is almost on top of Aberdeen right now, the center of that low. And of course, everything rotates counterclockwise. So that's why they've got that tornado watch, is for those storms that have already developed, moving into that highly sheared environment where winds are moving in different directions. And at different speeds, and that causes that rotation. So any of these thunderstorms that move into that area where that tornado watch box is could rotate. But again, there's not even any severe thunderstorm warnings right now there, but that's what they're watching. And again, a little closer to the Twin Cities, we'll put back on the Twin Cities radar. Now we are starting to see a few flashes. So if you're in Woodbury, Newport, yeah, a couple of claps of thunder, some flashes of lightning there. Meanwhile, the sun is out here in Minneapolis, but we'll keep you updated here through the afternoon, and if that activity fills in, and especially if it gets closer to the Twin Cities, we'll have some live updates. So be sure to follow us through the day.